Hey, welcome and come on in. As I am sitting here and thinking through everything that we have going on in life and in business, in purpose, and in doing all of the things that we are assigned to do and called to do, I just sit in a space of humility, right? That I get the opportunity to be a vessel. I get the opportunity to do what it is that God has called me to do in this season of my life. And so I know that I'm called to entrepreneurs of faith, entrepreneurs of power, and entrepreneurs of impact. And so it's one of the things that I want you all to really be leaning into around what it means to be used by God in business, right? And tonight we're talking about a permission slip, right? Who did you give your permission slip to? But the reality is, we first have to understand who we are, whose we are, and all of the things that we're called to do. So as you come in tonight, I want you, because this is April 30th, right? I want you, because it's the last day of the month, to type in the chat, may my life never be the same. Type in the chat, may my life never be the same. Why are we saying this? In a few short hours, we are about to be in a whole new month. And in this new month, we have an opportunity to wipe away the past and start afresh anew. And so we're just sending word into the month of May and saying, may my life never be the same. And that means we're sitting in the seat of expectation of what can happen, what can blow our mind as early as tomorrow, because may our lives never be the same. And so, tonight, I have a question for you. What is running your life? Is it fear? Is it fallacies? Or is it faith? And as I'm asking you this question around what is running your life, I want to know, like, who was it that you turned over your power to? Because if you're making decisions from a place of fear, that means that you've turned your power over into fear. And so when we think about the permission slip for us to be authentically us, we have to really go back and do some digging, right? And for those of you that are just coming in, I want you to type in the chat and declare, may my life never be the same. We're speaking into May, we're speaking over May around what's going to happen in our lives and as early as in a few hours, right? And so tonight, I want you to do away with the idea that you need a permission slip to be the most authentic version of you. Tonight, I want you to do away with the idea that you need a permission slip to be the most authentic version of you. And so we may be wondering, well, who have I given this permission slip to? Like, where is this permission slip idea even coming from? It comes from people who have said things to you, you being worried about people, all of the different things that people have opinioned on or opined on in your life, all those different things, it comes from places and environments and experiences. So, because you never want to be in an environment like that, because you never want to experience something like that, you've given away your power and your authenticity to that experience in that moment. But tonight, we are going to be the authentic versions of ourselves, and we're taking back that power. If you're just coming in again, I want you to type into the chat, may my life never be the same. We're speaking into May. Change can happen as early as tomorrow. Then the third one that you may have given a permission slip to is the inferior version of you. Yes, I'm coming on in with that one. The inferior version of you. That's a version of you that you were probably in a season, in a place, in a space where you were not operating optimally, or you were not operating with the full identity of who you were and who you are. And so, if you were not operating in that place and in that space, you probably gave that permission to run your life. And the issue here is that this leads to an identity crisis. Mm, an identity crisis. Y'all, what does an identity crisis looks like? It looks like you second guessing yourself. It looks like you taking people's opinion over your life versus God's will for your life. It looks like you talking yourself out of the thing that you want to do because of the perception of what someone else thinks or culture's way. It looks like being afraid of being judged. It looks like fear of an outcome that may never be, and it causes you not to even try. So again, we're typing in the chat and we're declaring, may my life never be the same. Why? We're speaking over May, we're speaking into May, and we're making sure that as early as when the clock strikes 12, we are at a place and in a new position to go after more. Right? This is why we're here at I Am and More on YouTube, and everything involving me is about I Am and More. So, the next question I have for you is, who or what has your future in its hand? Who or what has your future in its hand? Is it fear? Is it faith? Or is it fog? And when I say fog, I mean, I'm just at a standstill because I'm not even making decisions, right? Who or what has your future in its hand? Fear, faith, or fog? And I can recall some times in my life where fear was the driver. I can recall some times in my life where faith was the driver. And then I can recall some times in my life where fog was the driver. But I had to get to a place where I had to determine that I was going to be the CEO of my life and that I was going to take ownership of all the things and the outcomes that I wanted to spring forth. And so, a recent example for me is my blonde braids. And y'all, I really love these blonde braids, right? But as a licensed attorney in California and New York that could practice around the nation, I didn't think that this Black girl could be photographed and could get clients with blonde braids. So I needed a permission slip from a hairstyle. Am I serious? I was serious at the time. But what was the thing that led me to that place where I thought that I needed permission from my hair? I thought about the time where I used to have a nose ring and I had to take out my nose ring at the law firm. My counterparts didn't have to, but I had to. And so I built up this story around myself that in order to be a lawyer, in order to get clients, in order to attract certain people, I had to play a role rather than be my authentic self. And so tonight and that night, I want to encourage you as I encourage myself and say, I'm taking permission, I'm taking that permission slip back from whatever it is that I gave it to. And for those of you all that are just coming in, we are declaring that may my life never be the same. So write that down, put that in the chat, right? Think about that. Then I think about times where I've given a permission slip to other people. Why? I was the apparent CEO. An apparent CEO means that like you look like you got power, but you really don't. Right. And so one of the things that I used to do is let people guide me so much in my life. Like I had a whole council of people. And if the people counseled me on something, I listened to the people rather than the God in the Jamila. And that's what giving other people permission looks like. You trust others more than you trust yourself. You trust others more than you trust God. Why? Maybe you're afraid to go against culture. Maybe you're afraid of being judged. Maybe there's an experience that's causing some type of condemnation. But I want you to type in the chat again, say, I am the CEO of my life. And I'm not giving my power away to anyone or anything or any experience, right? Because if we don't stand and be authentic in our own right, our lives suffers, our business will suffer, and the people that we're called to will suffer. Why? Because we're literally turning our power over into other people. And so in the legal world, we have this thing where we have three types of authority. We have actual authority, apparent authority, and implied authority. And someone with actual authority is someone who trusts themselves and trusts God. And they're able to make decisions on their own and separate themselves from outcomes. So many times we get tripped up by outcomes because we are not as invested or maybe have some fear around the process of building. But if we get to a place where it's all about us becoming, all about us journeying to more, that's when we get to live the life of, may my life never be the same, right? We're walking into May in hours. May my life never be the same. Why? Because I've decided that I'm going to be the actual CEO of my life. An apparent CEO, they got a peanut gallery, and the peanut gallery is over there giving all of their opinions, making the decisions for people, and it causes imposter syndrome. It causes you to feel like an inferior version of yourself that you were never called or created to be. Type in the chat, I'm taking my permission slip back. We have to do it. I'm taking my permission slip back, whether it's from a person, whether it's from an experience, or whether it is from an inferior version of me. It's the difference between Jacob and Israel. It's the difference between Sarai and Sarah. It's the difference between Jamila and Jamila. It's the difference between Anetta and Anetta. It's the difference between Deborah and Deborah. Right. And so you really, and I don't know who JoJo 5 Chi Town is. It's the difference between JoJo 5 Chi Town and JoJo 5 Chi Town. Whatever that authentic version that you were called and destined to be, you have to be willing to live in it, own it, and not really care what other people are going to say about it. But here's the thing, y'all. That means you might have to face that with your family. Because when we talk about environments, when we talk about experiences, those are the ones that they are still sitting at home right now. We're 50, 60, 40, 30 years old, and they have our permission slip to be us in their hands. I know. Put some fire in the chat, put something in the chat, right? Because they themselves are still exerting some type of power in our life. But I thought that we were faith-based entrepreneurs where all power resides on high. So why are we allowing people to have that power? And the thing is, it's causing us, if we go back to tomorrow's lesson, it's killing our unbelief. It's stealing our momentum, and then it's destroying our promise. So for those of us that may be feeling like it's been a lot of delay, it's been a lot of, distractions, it's been a lot of this, and a lot of that is because of us giving away the permission slip. Because if we could get to a place, and I'm not saying it's easy, if we could get to the place where we don't allow the enemy to come in and then be an implied CEO in our life. Because where did that thought come from? Where did the thought come from that I couldn't be a lawyer with blonde braids? That was my thing a year ago. I was like, I can't do the photo shoot because the braids are blonde. Braid them to the side, something so people will accept me. Whereas there were probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of people looking for the blonde girl with the braids so that they could know that an attorney is just not something you see on TV. She could be the girl that survived the streets of South Central Los Angeles, right? Right? Who are you? Who can you be if you really sit in the most authentic version of yourself? What could you accomplish if you sit in the most authentic version of yourself? How could your profits grow if you sit in the most authentic version of yourself? That means I don't care what culture does. If this is what works for me and I know this is from God, I'm rolling with it. My goddaddy said to me earlier this week, he was like, God give crazy instructions. And he went down the list, and I was like, yeah, just telling somebody to go and move to Chicago, crazy, right? But I have actual authority in my life. But here's the trick. Here's the trick, y'all. Sometimes we will have actual authority and be the CEO in one area. And because we are strong in that one area, we won't go around and assess the other areas where we are not showing up with with actual authority as the CEO. And so then we're out of balance. And when we're out of balance, we're still giving permission to something else, to someone else, to an inferior version of ourselves to then lead us and lead us away from our promises and lead us away from the plans that God has for us. But I told y'all last night, and I'm going to say it again, hell no. I'm telling hell no. You can't steal my belief. I'm going to stay in faith. You can't kill my momentum. And your dang show can't destroy my promise. So when we think about the most authentic version of ourselves, the question really is, can I be myself? And we have to have this marriage and dance between customs and culture versus authenticity. We're doing a dance between custom and culture versus authenticity. Because a lot of times we don't show up authentic, and type authentic in the chat, right? That's how we know we have permission to be ourselves, when we're just showing up authentic in every situation. Now, will we respect the customs? Will we respect the culture? Yes. But am I going to show up as me and not hide? How many of you are former hiders? I can put my hand up high. How many of you are recovering shy people? I can put my hand up. How many of us are recovering perfectionists? Perfection comes from giving other people permission. The next time you want to perfect a thing, think about who stole that permission from you. Who's operating with that power? And so here's the truth. When we're focused on achievement, we miss curated moments to build. What are we building? We're building ourselves. We're building our businesses. We're building our families. We're always building something. But while we want to get to the thing, we know that we serve a God where he cannot lie. Right. And so we know that he hasn't lied. So then we need to live in the moment and ask for strength to build, to become the thing, to build yourself, to build the business, to build the family, to build whatever it is. And so, as we are working on being the actual CEOs of our lives, the first thing that we always have to do is seek out the purpose of everything in our lives. It's a lot of work. Being great is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Having amazing results is a lot of work. Miles Monroe says, if you don't know the purpose of a thing, abuse is inevitable. So if we don't know the purpose of this season, we will abuse it. If we don't know the purpose of our business, we will abuse it. If we don't know the purpose of why we need to be authentic, we will abuse ourselves. And I don't know about you, I don't like domestic violence. Like, no, I'm not going to harm myself. But yet I do when I'm deciding not to seek out the purpose in everything that I'm doing. Then you need faith to believe that you are who God says you are. And this is where that sneaky little sucker imposter syndrome comes in. I can't stand imposter syndrome. I mean, and the thing is, it tries and creep in at every level where you go higher and higher. When you were, in corporate, cool. Now you got to be a business owner. Dang. Now you got to scale. Dang. Like it always tries to creep in, right? But we already said, what are we declaring for May? May my life never be the same. We're hours away from a transformation. We're hours away from a breakthrough. We're hours away from things not looking the way they look right now. Why? Because we have the power. Because we've decided that we're going to be the CEOs of our life, and we're taking back our permission slips from our family, our friends, experiences, and inferior versions of ourselves. The last thing is you need faith to believe that you can do what God says you can do. Woo! I know. You need faith that you are the person to actually do it. Last night I said this. You have to find the person in the Bible that represents the time and season that you are in. And so if you don't think you can do it, go find Gideon. If you don't think you can do it, go find Moses. Because Moses teaches us how to leverage people around us. Gideon teaches us how we can show up and just ask God for some help to make sure that we actually believe that we are the people called to do the things that we're called to do. But we have to decide, is our promise and our purpose really worth it? Is it worth the fight? Is it worth the ugliness of transformation? Is it worth being uncomfortable? Right? You can say, may my life never be the same, because in May, my life will not look the same. But will you put in the work to seek out purpose over everything, to make sure you have the faith needed to believe you are who God says you are, and 3, to make sure you have the faith to believe you can do what God says you can do. And so if you've decided tonight that you've taken back all of the permission slips, what is your faith plan moving forward? I know. You got to think about it. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it over the week, because the reality is we will come to a place where we are living in fatigued faith, we're living in falling faith, and we're living in false faith. And false faith is just fear. And so we have to start being proactive. I said that last night. Why? Because it is not if something will happen, it is when something will happen. And what plan do we have? Because the enemy is always going to be on attack. It'll come out of nowhere, right? And sometimes we think when things are chill, that things are chill. And things are chill because he's plotting. And while he's plotting, I'm plotting and I'm staying on my knees, right? I'm still using the methods of prayer and fasting. Because, hey, I told hell, no, I'm getting all of my promises. I'm taking back all of my permission slips. So as we come to a close, if you have some questions, now would be a good time for you to just ask them, right? What do you think you need to know about permission? What questions do you have about how to navigate sticky situations where you have to take back your power? How do you know when to be silent or when to say something? And I want to have this disclaimer here. Even though we are taking back our permission, we're still going to be respectful and honorable. It doesn't give us a license to go act like a little butthole. Y'all have no questions? Do y'all know how much I charge per hour? You better ask these questions. You better ask these questions. You get the brilliance of the legal strategist, the business strategist, the life strategist, the faith coach. Blessings to my sister, all the way from LA. Okay. Y'all don't have no questions? Well, I'm going to close this out in prayer tonight. So, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for every person that is listening. We thank you for every person who will come and listen, dear God. We thank you that you have been in the midst, dear God. We thank you, God, that you have ushered in a sort of deliverance, God, a sense of awakening, dear God, that our lives may never be the same, that we will not do the same things, we will not think the same way, God, and the power that you vested in us that we will use unapologetically and go after everything that it is that we need. God, I ask that you give us divine strategy, divine wisdom, divine knowledge, and divine understanding to navigate every difficult situation that we could be facing in life. God, I ask, God, that you increase us, God, for the things, God, that we can receive, God, greater visibility, greater influence, greater finances, dear Lord God, and that we will be the people that you called and ordained us to be. So, Father, I just thank you, I praise you, and I lift you up. In Jesus' name, it is done. Y'all, meet me here tomorrow night. It's going to go down. And remember, may my life never be the same. Why? Tomorrow is a new day. It's a new opportunity. And we're saying goodbye to inferior versions of ourselves. We're saying goodbye to where we've given power away to different people, to inferior versions of ourselves, and even to circumstances. It's time to go and it's time to go all out. I'll see you all soon. Take care.